On today's show, Luka Doncic and Maxi Kleber's injuries will hold back the Mavericks against the Thunder. But by how much? We'll talk about that and answer some more questions on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. May the 4th be with you. And the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day on any podcast platform, leave a 5-star review, like the video on YouTube, and comment anything below. Let me know in the comment section what's one question you have about this Mavs Thunder series. Let me know about that. Game off. We got to talk more about Monopoly Go. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments, unlock prizes, things like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, hilarious emojis to talk your friends with. So download Monopoly Go. Go to the Apple Store or Google Play. Download Monopoly Go. Mavs beat the Clippers. The vibes are still high over here. And then the Maxi Kleber injury rears its ugly head. So we'll talk about that, obviously. We'll talk about what to expect from OKC. We'll talk about, can the Mavericks win shooting 33% from three against them? We'll talk about the centers. I think the centers are massive in this series. Talk about Josh Giddey, who I think is a swing player for the Thunder. Man, I've been talking about the Clippers for like 3 straight weeks now. A different opponent for the Mavericks. It's wild. We'll talk about which role players need to step up. But let's start here. So Maxi Kleber gets his injury diagnosed. It's a grade 3 sprain, AC sprain. So it's a shoulder dislocation there. And if you subscribe to the subtext, you know that I had said something like that earlier because Brian Suter had been texting with me and talking about what it could mean. And he said, well, right when it happened, he goes, it's probably an AC sprain and it's either 1 to 7 weeks. And so I was like, okay, well, you hope it's like a really minor one where he's only out a week and maybe he misses the first couple of games. And then you get the actual diagnosis, you get the actual MRI results. It's a grade 3 sprain for Maxi Kleber. And so I do not expect him to play in this OKC series at all. I don't think that from the reporting, it doesn't sound like he's going to play at all in any of these games. And he may not play the rest of the playoffs. Let's say the Mavericks beat the Thunder. Doesn't sound like he could play in the next round either. Like it could be the finals if the Mavericks make that. Like that's when he would come back, which is a tall order, but this is where the Mavericks are. You also have Luka Doncic, who was one of the best shooters in the NBA, 38% from three, second most three-point attempts per game in the entire league during the regular season. And you go, man, Luka, great shooter. I had an episode of this very show where I said he's the second best shooter in the NBA, the best non-Steph Curry shooter in the NBA this year. He was shooting that well, step backs, his catch and shoots were way up. And he shoots 24% from three in the series against the Clippers. 16 of 67. He goes 1 of 10 in the closeout game. And I chalk it up to injuries. I chalk it up to he's having these knee issues. He's having these, you've seen his knee with, with the blood stain on it with his compression sleeve. You saw the compression sleeve he was wearing, the extra one, the brace that he was wearing in game 6. Luka is dealing with injuries too. And so you've got these two guys in Luka, and I think at this point we kind of know what Luka could be held back by with injuries. He's still going to be able to do most of the Luka things that we expect. He's still going to be able to put up a ton of numbers. He put up, in the Clippers series, we all talked about how felt like bad he was at times. But he still put up 30 points a game, 9.5 assists, 9 rebounds, turned it over less than 4 times, which is huge. And, he hit 83% of his free throws on 8 attempts a game. And he was a positive 11.3 or 11.5 per game. So when he was in, the Mavericks outscored the Clippers by 11.5 points on average. So he still put up really good numbers. He can still do a lot of things. I think he's going to struggle with his lift on his shot. He said after the game that it sounds like the medical staff had told him that this injury is not necessarily going to get better as it goes on. He's just going to have to deal with it. Some injuries are like that. And so this Luka injury, I think, will hold him back with the three-point shooting, which I think is definitely going to hurt the Mavericks and has hurt the Mavericks in this. But maybe he learns how to deal with it a little better, and maybe he takes better shots, and maybe he hits some of these threes, and maybe that it's a non-factor at this point. We know he can still defend. You've seen it. Maybe in Game 6, he didn't have the best defensive game, but we saw it. There are games in that Clippers series where he was awesome on defense. And I kind of think that this Clippers, how many times am I going to do this? I still think that this Thunder series, he may not have to guard one-on-one as much as he did against the Clippers. But we'll see. There's a lot more research I want to do into this. A lot more I want to do watching this Thunder team. But the Maxi Kleber injury, how does that affect the Mavericks? I think it holds back the Mavericks in one specific big way. It makes them less versatile. This Mavericks team now can kind of only do one thing: play big. These centers are going to be huge. I'll talk about them a little later. But with Maxi, you had this option to go to this smaller ball. You've got a guy at the 5 that can guard a bunch of different positions. Maxi's defense had been awesome the last couple of months of the season, and in the Clippers series, he was good. He hit 50% of his threes. The Mavs are missing another three-point shooter, so we'll talk about that. That's going to be a big thing, too. He was a positive in that light in the Clippers series. But they lose the versatility. Now, when you want to go smaller, what do? They didn't go PJ at the 5 very much at all in the regular season. They didn't go PJ at the 5 at all in the Clippers series. They went Maxi at the 5 some, and then they also went Maxi with a center next to him, whether it was Gafford or Lively. And so you don't have that look anymore either. So there's multiple looks that the Mavericks did have with Maxi that they can't replicate anymore. They could, like Jason Kidd said, it's next man up. That's what a coach says. The next man up, I guess, is Markieff Morris. So that doesn't really add a whole lot, I don't think. Maybe some spacing, but that doesn't really like solve it. That person's not. The next man up is the centers, and it's Exum. Those are the next men up to fill in the gaps in a different way. Exum's got to hit some shots. Exum's got to be usable on offense. The centers have to hold their own, and the centers have to be both playable. They have to. They absolutely have to be both playable without Maxi in this series, because Maxi was sort of the release, or sort of the security blanket in some ways. All right, well, it's looking a little shaky with Gafford. Let's go to, we can put Lively in there. Lively start going with some, let's go to Maxi. And you can play Maxi. Maxi only played 19 minutes a game in that series. It's wild how important he was, though. He only played 19 minutes a game in the Clippers series, but he is very important because he gives you another look, and you're going to need every look you can get against a Thunder team that is very good. This Thunder team, let's start getting into it now. This Thunder team in the regular season, the Mavs saw them 4 times. The Mavs lost 3 of them. The Mavs won the one that was the first day of the trades in February. The other 3 matchups, either Luka or Kyrie or both, didn't play. In December, Kyrie didn't play. Kyrie, Maxi, Josh Green, and Exum, and Tim Hardaway Jr. were all out in the December game. That's when the Mavs went on the 30-0 run against the Thunder. They ended up losing the game, but that was a weird one because half the rotation is out, including Kyrie. Luka had 36 and 18 in that game, 18 assists. Then the February 1, first day of the trades, PJ and Gafford don't even start. Maxi started that game. Lively was out of that one. Exum was out of that one too. But Gafford had 19 points and 9 rebounds. Mavericks out-rebounded the Thunder 54-40. Mavs didn't really miss a lot of shots. Mavs shot 40% from 3. That's notable. Then in March, this was the one game that Luka missed in that huge run where the Mavericks were playing really, really well. And Kyrie and Gafford played really well in that game. And then they ended up losing that game by 7. And then in the last game of the season, nobody played in that one. And the Thunder dominated by like 50. So that one doesn't even count. None of the Mavericks players really played. And so if you look at those, the only one that really mattered where both sides had their basically full complement of players was in February when the Mavericks destroyed the Thunder. And you can maybe chalk that one up to, well, it was just a bad afternoon for the Thunder. But this Thunder team is very, very good. Take a drink. Hold on. Everybody take a drink. I have a Celsius. Here you go. Take a drink every time I say Clippers instead of Thunder. This Thunder team is very good. 3rd on offense in the NBA this season in the regular season. 4th on defense. That's elite. Elite. Do not look past this Thunder team. Their best lineup is their starting lineup. SGA, Jalen Williams, Lou Dort, Josh Giddey, and Chet. They played 1,700 possessions together. They had a 120 offensive rating and 111 defensive rating. They were a very good lineup, and we're going to see that lineup a lot, and there's a lot of questions that we can ask about that lineup. But that is Absolutely huge for that group. 1,700 possessions is absolutely wild. The Mavericks starting lineup of Luka, Kyrie, Derek Jones Jr., PJ Washington, and Daniel Gafford has played 377 possessions in the regular season. So OKC's has played so much more. They have so much more of a continuity advantage over the Mavericks in this game, in this series. Massive. Coming up, let's ask some of the other big questions about this series. We've already talked about the injuries. Let's get into some of these other things. We'll talk about all that and more coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Go check out Monopoly Go on the App Store or Google Play. You'll want to. They have all kinds of new stuff all the time. You can play the normal Monopoly game, but you can also do all kinds of fun things too, where you can team up with friends or time tournaments where you work together, you build up each other's boards. There's more that you can do when you win together and more prizes that you can unlock too together. You get unique stickers and you can trade with friends to complete albums and things like that. You get prizes for completing the albums. You get cool playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis to taunt your friends and things like that, smash their buildings, and go on heist their vaults. That sounds fun. Go play Monopoly Go. They have all kinds of new things all the time, constantly changing tournaments and challenges, a ton of unique things like mini games and things like that. There's always new timed events that help you win big, massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. So go check out Monopoly Go on the App Store or Google Play. Again, check out the Monopoly Go app on the Google Play or the App Store. We're also brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds that you can use to get in on the action and put some money down on some of these games. Mavs open up game 1. Thunder, 3.5-point favorite. You usually get like 3 points if you're the home team. So this is like a Thunder slightly, they get a slight advantage here. For example, Nuggets are 4.5-point favorites at home against the Timberwolves. So yeah, Thunder a slight advantage for game 1. You get the series odds. The Mavericks are plus 100. The Thunder are minus 122. So the Thunder are the favorites in this series, according to FanDuel. So go check that out. FanDuel right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Again, $150 on spreads, money lines, player props, things like that. FanDuel.com/lockedon.
My first shot, my first play.
Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. We appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show, listening, and thanks to everybody who has found the show recently. We are a show that does Dallas Mavericks content all throughout the year. All year. Slightly Biased will be on, Reggie Atatula will be on, Dana Larson is on, and we rotate them, have guests on and things like that. And so we'll have a bunch of people on all throughout. And yeah, thanks for checking in on the show. All right, so we talked about the injuries. They will hold the Mavericks back. They'll be less versatile. They may struggle three-point shooting with Luka struggling with threes and Maxi being out as well. My question about three-point shooting, though, is can Dallas win shooting 33% from three, which is what they shot against the Clippers? They had 3 positive shooters, three-point shooters. Kyrie was 22 of 49, 45% from three. Scorching. Awesome. He was so great. Maxi, 10 of 18. He was the one role player that really went off from three. 55% from three. Insane. He's gone. He's not going to be here for that series. He's not walking through that door. Derek Jones Jr., 5 of 13. That's 38%. You'll take that. He hit a couple. And so you'll take that. He didn't take a lot, but he hit a couple, and boom. So that's a positive three-point shooter. Luka shot 24%. He was 16 of 67 in the Clipper series. PJ was 10 of 32. That's 31%. That's like on the edge of positive, but not really. Josh Green was 3 of 12. Exum was 0 for 6 for 0%, if you needed me to do that math for you. Can Dallas win doing that? The Thunder dominated the Pelicans on three-point shooting in their first-round series. The Pelicans had the lowest three-point percentage in the entire playoffs, 26% from three on about 33 a game. The Thunder shot 39% on 34 threes. They were the number 1 three-point shooting team by percentage in the playoffs. So the Pelicans just got dominated by the threes. The Mavs will have to do a similar thing that they did the Clippers. The Thunder aren't going to take as many as the Clippers, and they're not going to rely solely on those threes like the Clippers did. But they'll have to win that three-point battle in a big way. Or at least in a way that is close. At least they don't get dominated by threes. I think they can win a series that they shoot 33% from three. Now, in that game where the Mavericks won against the Thunder, they shot 40% from three. A bunch of guys were knocking down some shots. They were also getting out in transition. It was a really bad Thunder defensive game. A lot of transition buckets, things like that. But The three-point shooting is going to be another big thing of emphasis. I don't think it will completely decide the series like the Clippers one ended up being, but you got to watch it. The Clippers are, they rely a lot more on the three than the Thunder do, but I think that will be a big thing because the Mavericks have struggled so much to hit their shots. The Mavs centers, another big question in this series. Can the Mavs centers swing the series? With Maxi out, I mentioned earlier, these two centers, Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively, have to be playable. Have to. They have to be able to play. What else do you do? What else do you turn to? I mean, what else do you turn to? It's wild how important Maxi was to this team. It's wild. Why did he jump from like near the free throw line? Makes no sense. Why did Amir Coffey push him in the air? Why? So many questions about that play. They didn't need that. Coffey was so far out. Maxi could have Euro stepped around him and finished, or just stopped and passed the ball. I mean, like, so many things could have happened differently on that play. But these centers, they have to be playable, and I've got good news for you. I think they will be, and I think they'll be good in this series. Lively, the game in December, the 30-0 run game where the Mavericks lost, where Kyrie and half the roster wasn't playing, and it was before the trades and all that. Lively had 20 points, 16 rebounds, 7 blocks in that game. Huge. And the Thunder always have their players. So in any of these matchups that I bring up, imagine all the Thunder players played, because they always do. That's why they played 1,700 possessions together. They always play. None of them miss time. It's wild. It was one of my things for MVP is that Luka has played with an insanely different amount of people all the time, and Shea has played with the same guys every day. But Lively had 20, 16, and 7 blocks in that game. He was massive. Now, he had not as great of a game in the next one that he played, but he's capable of having a game like that. Remember, it was this was this Thunder game in December was the first time we saw Lively really like Luka get a trap and get doubled by two Thunder players. Lively take the ball, take one dribble, and go dunk at the basket. I think they're going to do that. I think he's going to have to do that. He did that a couple times in the Clippers series, and I think he's going to have to do that again. And I think that will be open for him because the Mavericks will have to space them out and do all that. And the Thunder will really try to trap Luka around the half-court line, and that spaces it all out too. So Lively, he's capable of having a big game like that. That was a massive game. 20, 16, and 7 blocks. Huge. 6 offensive rebounds in that game too, by the way. So 6 offensive rebounds, 10 defensive rebounds. Gafford, Mavs' first game, his first game as a Maverick was against the Thunder. That game that they won, massive, awesome win for the Mavericks. Gafford had 19 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 offensive rebounds in there. 19 and 9 in his first game. Came off the bench, was huge. Remember, Luka was throwing the passes to him from way down the court, and he was just catching them against guys. The Thunder don't have a ton of size. They've got Chet, got Giddey, who's bigger, but they don't have a ton of size against these guys. Their backup center is Jalen Williams, the other one. Yeah, it so sucks for him that he's the other one. He's the other one, the Arkansas Jalen Williams. You can't do the college thing forever, right? J. Will, I think, is that one. J. Dub is the better one. But Jalen Williams, the Jalen with a Y, he should just go by J, man. Jaylin. That's his name. So J. Just go by J, man. Like, why do you got to make us do this? But that's their backup center. He's like, a Maxi kind of player where he's not huge, but he brings some versatility. He's going to take a 3, things like that. And so this Mavericks team has to take advantage with their size, with their 2 centers. These guys have to be good. The other matchup in March, the one that Luka didn't play in, Gafford and Kyrie really connected a lot. Gafford had 19 points, 15 rebounds, and 6 offensive rebounds in that game. So Gafford scored 19 twice against this team. He had, a combined, 24 rebounds in 2 games against them. So the rebounding from the centers, they're going to be absolutely massive. With Maxi out, these 2 centers have to be playable. They have to be good for the Mavericks. And I think they really can swing the series. Because if all of a sudden we look at these 2 centers and you go, oh no, the Thunder have figured something out. They have changed what they do. They are playing these centers off the court. That's really bad for the Mavs. But if all of a sudden we look at this and go, oh my gosh, this Thunder team has no answers for these 2 centers, then the Mavericks just run their pick and roll all series. Luka makes decisions, and when Luka is put in a position to just make a decision on a play, it's huge. Great for the Mavs. So that's huge for them. And I don't think the Thunder have the same kind of personnel that the Clippers did, where they could take away those. They can bring a guy over to help, And the Mavericks have to knock down threes, and that takes me back to the first question before. But I don't think they have the same kind of personnel. Like you saw Lively at the end of that Clipper series where he goes, oh, is this Norman Powell is on me? Okay, I'm going to just turn around and I'm going to hit a little floater. Oh, even Paul George is on me, who's like 6'10". I'm still going to turn around and hit a shot over him. And I think that they'll do that against the Thunder guys as well. And you saw Gafford by the end of that Clipper series, that dunk he had against Zubats where he just barreled into his chest, pushed him off a spot and dunked on him. I mean, what's he going to do against Chet? Now, Chet really beat down Jonas Valanciunas and did not care about Jonas Valanciunas at all. But I think Gafford is a different animal than what Jonas Valanciunas is. Another question for this series. What happens with Giddey? This is like my one Thunder question for them. I think you kind of know what you're going to get from everybody else. Lou Dort is kind of a swing guy if he hits his threes. I think Chet is kind of a swing guy when it comes to the center matchup. Like, what if he plays even with the Mavs centers? I don't think that's good for the Mavs. But what happens with Giddey? In the Pelicans series, he was hilarious. Missed 2 threes in game 1, missed 2 threes and hit 1 in game 2. Went 4 of 7 in game 3 in New Orleans. Went 4 of 6 from 3 in game 4 in New Orleans. He also had a game where he hit 5 of 8 threes in a game against New Orleans in New Orleans. So far, he's had 3 of his best shooting games of the season in New Orleans. Make it make sense. But do the Mavericks leave him wide open? I was watching that game where the Mavericks dominated and Luka was guarding him early, and he just kind of left him in the corner. And when the Thunder are doing their other stuff with Jalen Williams and with SGA, Giddey is just kind of hanging out in the corner, and do the Mavericks completely leave him? Luka did in that game. He missed some threes. He missed a floater really early. And then you go, all right, well, this guy's not an option, and so we're just going to leave him open like they did with Westbrook. Giddey getting the Westbrook treatment, that's tough. That's tough, man. But do they do that? And I'm curious to see what they do with Giddey. He could be a big swing player for them as well. Last big question for the Mavericks is which role players need to step up? I got some options for you. First one is centers. I think that's an obvious one. We already kind of talked about them. The centers do need to step up, obviously. Gafford's got to be better than he was in the first round series. Lively's got to be as good as he was, maybe better, because Maxi's out. They've got to step up. And so those guys definitely have to be better. Derek Jones Jr., I think he's going to get the SGA assignment. I think he's going to get that one. And I think he's got to at least contain him in some kind of way. That SGA just can't get whatever he wants all the time, right? That's what contain means, not hold him to 20 points and 5 of 24 shooting. You know, like, I don't think you're going to do that. SGA's too good. He's too good. For all the talk that we had about the MVP and how we were all like trying to downplay SGA's season in some way, he is very good. Now, he's not the playmaker that Luka or Jokic are. He's not the guy that's going to create all this offense and do all this. He's going to get his own shots. He'll create a little bit here and there, but he's not the crazy playmaker where he's got every answer and he's got every option in front of him. That's the thing I've been talking about with Luka all season. Luka has every option in front of him. He's got lobs, he's got three-point shooters, he's got the floater, he's got the mid-range, he's got the step-back three, he's got the catch-and-shoot three. He's got every option. So when Luka has the ball and it's one-on-one, he can do literally anything. Anything could happen. With SGA, it's not really the case. And so he's a little more predictable in a way. And the Thunder, we're in isolation offense, the sixth most in the NBA, 8% of the time. The Clippers were first. Now, that changed when Kawhi Leonard went out. And so they kind of went down. So I think we're looking at a similar kind of offense that we saw against the Clippers when Kawhi Leonard was playing. And so I think that's beneficial to the Mavericks. The isolation heavy, got two guys that do it really well in SGA and Jalen Williams, that slow down, run a pick and roll, do that kind of stuff. I think the Mavericks play better against that than they do against the crazy passing Golden State Warriors of old offense. But the Thunder, the second half-court offense in the NBA, they're very good at this. Like, they do it a lot for a reason, right? They wouldn't just do it. They wouldn't just spam these isolation possessions if it wasn't working. Same with the Mavericks. They do the same thing. So Derek Jones Jr. has to be good defensively against SGA. And I think PJ will get some time on him as well. I'm sure Luka and Kyrie will have to switch on him. Like, everybody has to be aware of what SGA is doing all the time. PJ, he's got to step up in this series too. I think he's got to be the extra scoring. I think he's got to have a couple games that like he had in game 3 with the PJ pose, where he's big and he shows up and it's a big deal. that he has 15 points, 18 points, 20 points in a game. And I think he's going to be able to attack off closeouts in this series. I think he's going to be able to get that floater that he was kind of messing with in that Clipper series. I think he's going to get that. And I think PJ needs to step up in that way too on offense. They need somebody to step up on offense because they're not getting it from some of their other sources. I don't know what's going on with Tim Hardaway Jr. We'll see his status. That's another big question. Do you play him or not if he's available? I don't know. The last role player I think that needs to step up, I mentioned him earlier, is Dante Exum. We've been waiting for him. We've been waiting for him to have a series. We've been waiting for him to have a game in this series where he looks playable. In Game 6, I think he looked a little more playable, but they're going to need him as an extra defender. With Maxi out, I think he's the next guy that has to play more. If you look through the lineup, you're like, all right, who's another defender that we can bring in that can defend credibly enough? And it's Exum. He's the other guy you can bring in. And the Thunder have a bunch of little guards and stuff. SGA, Jalen Williams, Kaysen Wallace coming off the bench. Even count Giddey. Count Lou Dort. Count Isaiah Joe. Like, you've got to have some of these guys to chase around some of these other guys. And I think Exum is gonna have to be that guy. And I think he has to be playable in this series for the Mavs to have a real shot. It's a tough one. Okay, let's do this. I haven't done this for a questions episode. What are things I have no questions about? No questions about Luka's production. I have no questions about Kyrie. Zero. None. I have no questions about Kyrie. I know what he's going to bring. I know what he's going to do. I feel good about it. I have no questions about the what the Thunder are going to try to do. They get in transition a lot. The Mavericks need to make sure that they don't get in transition a lot. The Mavs can't turn it over a lot. I have no questions about that. I guess I have some question about the coaching matchup, but we did just see the Mavericks beat the Clippers, where Ty Lue, I think, is a better coach than Jason Kidd. And I think Mark Daigneault could be a better coach than Jason Kidd. It's kind of hard because we haven't really seen him in a real playoff setting yet. The last thing, if I'm looking at this series, I'm fascinated in the approach from both teams and how they take this, because all season people have been saying this Thunder team is young, this Thunder team is inexperienced, this Thunder team hasn't been there before. So then they go play a Pelicans team without Zion Williamson, where Brandon Ingram played like he didn't want to be there or just wasn't there. The Pelicans only led in that series for 33 out of 192 minutes. They led for 15 minutes in game 1. They led for 3 minutes in game 2 and 3, and they led for like 11 minutes in game 4. That's it. Out of 192 minutes, they led 33. So OKC only trailed 33 minutes. So they boat raced them. I mean, they just destroyed the Pelicans. And so they ran through that series. They're barking. They're doing the thing that they do where Jalen Williams and all of them come together and for the post-game interview, and they've got all the continuity and all that. They're high up on their horse right now. The Mavericks just went through kind of a dogfight. Remember in game 2? Game 1 and 2, we were like, the Mavericks have won a rock fight now. They literally played a rock fight against the Clippers. And they played some tough defense against them. They're tested a little bit more. This group is a little more tested this season than the Thunder are. And so how do they approach it? Mavericks are also more injured. Thunder don't really have any injuries. The Mavericks have Maxi is out. Tim Hardaway could be out and has been out. And Luka has been hobbled. And do they come in and all of a sudden we go, man, game 1, this Thunder team is just way younger, way faster, way more ready for this, way fresher. And we look at the Mavericks and go, they just look slow. They look like they've been through a rock fight. Or do we look at these teams and go, oh my gosh, this Thunder team was not ready for the intensity of this game? Because I don't think those Pelicans games were as intense as the playoff games normally go. Those are the big questions. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Comment below what question you have about this. I'll do a crossover with Rylan Stiles probably tomorrow night. So we'll have that. I'll also have Reggie back on and we'll talk about this series as well. And then I should be going to OKC for games 1 and 2. That's Tuesday and Thursday. And so I'll have episodes there. He says he's going as well. So we should have episodes with both of us in person. Guys, thanks for listening to Locked on Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.